Hey friends, so in today's video we're going to talk about painting, and I want to show you how to take a reference photo and transform it into a digital conceptual illustration. Let's get into it. And so sometimes I start with a sketch like I am here, and in the second example I'm going to show you how I jump right into paint. So I don't even draw anything, I just start painting right away, and we'll do that in the second example. But why do I do this? One of the reasons why I do this is still like an inspiration and exploration phase. So I don't ever really use these as a final illustration. This is more like just for fun, maybe to post on social media, things like that. So there's not really a right or wrong way because this is all just for practice and experimental. So again, with this one, I started with the sketch, and really what I was trying to capture is kind of like the main shapes, and now I'm using the paint to simplify and push the shapes even more. If you notice, my paint isn't staying within the lines, and in fact, you know what, let's pause right here because I want you to take note of what I'm about to say. When doing this kind of explorational painting, your sketch lines are there to guide you, not to confine you. Your sketch lines are guiding you, not confining you. In other words, use them as a guide so that you remember what the main idea is, but give your paint strokes the freedom to go beyond your sketch. Again, remember that this is for fun and exploration. So I'm going to continue to push those shapes and get the overall silhouette down so I can start kind of figuring out what the pattern of the fur is. Also filling in the background, and then eventually starting to come into the values. So trying to figure out where's the light coming from. I realize that here it's coming from the top. I want to kind of keep that the same. Again, you can kind of change the light direction if you want. You can change whatever you want. Again, this is kind of, it's a little bit of observation and exploration in one. And then here I'm going to liquefy just to kind of continue to just push and kind of exaggerate certain things that I want to emphasize. And then the rest of it is really just painting what I'm seeing. I'm just painting what's already there, and just taking the freedom to kind of change the things that I want to look a little bit different. That could be the shape of the eye, that could be the lighting, it could be the pattern of the fur. Right here underneath the jawline, I do end up changing the pattern of the fur quite a bit. Really, it's entirely up to you, but what you're going to find is that you're going to just end up having to do a bunch of these. And some of them might look good. Some of them you might like them and you might want to post them. Others you might just hate. They just maybe don't work out quite as well. But the idea is, again, for me personally, I find that this is very helpful in that you're doing a little bit of observational painting or drawing, but you're still kind of allowing yourself to incorporate a little bit of conceptual stuff and push and tweak things a little bit just to make it fun and interesting, and kind of work on those conceptual muscles as well. So it's like you're trying to refine the observational muscles, your ability to observe something and copy it, and then kind of using the conceptual stuff as well. And so that's what I like so much about these exercises. You could even add things to it. You could add like wings to like a little character, or little antlers or whatever. Really, it's entirely up to you. You could combine different reference photos, all that kind of stuff. Here, what I'm going to do now is I want to see what would it look like if I push the character like cartoony kind of vibe to it. So I'm changing the eyes to feel a little bit more animated versus realistic. And I think I kind of wrap it up there. So now that we're done with this little guy, let's go ahead and move into the next little animal. So as we get started here, and as I mentioned before, we have to kind of decide what do we want to keep and what do we want to change. So with this here, I really like the lighting and everything, so I wanted to keep that. But if you notice with the anatomy of this bird, he's got like a smaller head and then his body is a little bit bigger. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to reverse that. So I wanted the head to be larger and then a much smaller body. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that turned out like. So again, with this one, I decided not to do any drawing. It's all just painting. So I started kind of mapping everything out with the paintbrush, and again, as I mentioned, I wanted the head to be a little bit bigger than the body. And so I just kind of started with that. And I'm starting with very, very basic geometric shapes. Again, a lot of the lighting, I wanted to keep the same thing with the background. I wanted to keep things relatively soft. And I wanted to focus more on just changing the shape of the bird. So a lot of the things I kept very, very similar. Same thing with the pattern of the fur. Kept it very similar. I tried to simplify it a little bit, and when I say simplify, I mean just making very minor changes to kind of keep it as simple as I possibly can, but with still being able to carry a lot of like the features and characteristics of the bird. This is also, as I mentioned before, this isn't like a final polished illustration. This is just for fun, just to kind of loosen up and explore some not just experimental stuff, but some observational thing. I'm really looking at the fur. I'm mostly thinking about the lighting and trying to keep things soft, and then trying to figure out what to exaggerate. I kept playing around with the beak here, and I couldn't decide if I wanted it to be like a really long skinny beak or keep it shorter, and in the end I ended up keeping it longer, which again is fine because again we're just trying to have some fun here. But here I just continued to mess around with it, trying to figure out what to, there was always areas that I kind of felt like, oh, I could have spent a little bit more time on this or that, but the whole point is just to kind of just explore and try different things. I did kind of push the lighting, and I even added like specular highlights here and things that weren't on the photo. And that all just comes from doing this often. You do enough of these that you start to remember things that you did, or texture, or the way fur looks on other things that you painted before. And that just kind of carries over onto other illustrations that you do. So I really had a really good time with this one. It was very simple, but pretty fun. I ended up taking him a little bit further with the eyes here and started making it feel a little bit more like a cartoon, the way I did with the previous animal. I was really happy with the way that turned out. So there you have it, a quick before and after on how both illustrations kind of turned out. I do hope that you give this a shot. I hope that you try this. Try this with different kind of animals. Don't just do two, do several and see how you like it. Again, the idea is to try to balance those two out. Try to balance the observational skill, where you can really pay attention to the fur and like whatever it is that you decide to paint. It might be scales or something completely different, but also keep that kind of conceptual mind part of your mind open to kind of changing things around, but really lean on the observational part of it. If you find that you're struggling and it's not really turning out the way that you wanted or hope that it would, really that just means that you just need a little bit more practice. That just means that you need to do it more often. And in some cases, you need to be maybe paying a little bit more attention to the photo reference, whatever that is, whether it's lizard skin, fur, feathers, whatever the case may be. You want to make sure that you really are picking up on that and not leaning too far into conceptual painting from your imagination. It's a balance of both. So again, I hope that this video blessed you, and I hope to see you on the next one. Keep the fire alive, my friends.